why, dude? Like, you want to get paid $50,000 a month and you're using fucking PBNs? Like, get out of here, dude. That's JV shit. Like, honestly, do things the right way. I know it's harder. It takes more work, but like, building a business is hard, and that's the things that you have to do if you want to get to the next levels. And I think a lot of people, they're just doing the same things over and over and over again. They're seeing stuff online, they're seeing stuff on Facebook groups, and they're chasing the next hack when they don't realize that SEO is not a hack. It's a process that you have to run.
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Troyer.
What's up, guys? It's Joe Troyer, and welcome to another episode. So, guys, I'm super excited today to have on Ryan Stewart. For those of you guys that don't know Ryan, definitely go check him out. I think probably the best place is to look up his company, Webris. He gives out lots of free training, lots of free resources. Man, I think you do a great job just over-delivering with lots of value for people. He's also the founder of the Blueprint Training, which is an online training platform helping over 3,000 agencies scale their business. Man, you do so much. Founder at Capture and Convert, which is a WordPress plugin. I think that one's new. I haven't heard too much about that one, so we'll have to dive into that. And then a former e-com business owner, I believe, as well. And one of the big things I want to talk about is you scaling and building your SEO business, right? And then exiting. I had an exit recently as well. So would love your feedback on that and kind of some thoughts. And guys, I'm just super excited to have Ryan on the show today.
Appreciate you having me, and congrats on your exit, man. I didn't know that.
Thanks. Yeah. So you as well. I didn't know that you exited. My team did a bunch of research on you, and I'm like, wait a second. He exited the e-com company. He exited, his agency. So big congrats, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you figure out where your skill set is to a certain point, and like we were chatting about offline before it came on, I realized I don't want to have a 100-person company. I'm good at a certain thing, which is ideation and scaling and growing, and then passing it off to someone else to run and cashing out and doing it again. So.
That's funny. That's been my aha moment as well, right?
Yeah.
After getting rid of a lot of stuff, that's been the major takeaway for me as well. I'm curious, did it take you selling the company to figure that out, or did you figure it out before selling the company?
So first and foremost, we should talk about the sale of Webris, because technically it was more of a it was a sale. I call it a sale really for clickbait value, I guess, is the honest way of saying it. So the CEO of the acquiring agency, Nick Eubanks, I've known him for a while. He's amazing technical SEO, amazing business person too, really good dude. He was down in Miami about a year and a half ago. We were having dinner, and he was talking about how he's going to acquire this small agency that did social. And I was just we've known each other for years, and I was kind of like, man, whenever you're ready, make me an offer, and I'm out. And on the following Monday, he did. And I had never really like considered it until that point, but I like kind of sat down and realized that building my business, it ruined my relationship that I was in, because I was always working 12-hour days. I didn't see an end to that either. Like, the more that we grew, the more shit that got piled on top of me. I put on like 25, 30 pounds. I actually saw a video that you did too that was talking about it too. Like, it's really real. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was my first time with a really successful business too. It was a lot, and I just didn't want to deal with it. I just wasn't really happy doing it anymore. So it was more of kind of like small cash buyout, keep everything, keep all the assets that I generated within the company. Client list, employees, and all future leads go to From the Future, which is the new acquiring agency. I also have a quarter now equity in that agency, which is now almost 10 million in revenue. So it was kind of like an even trade, and I give my business to somebody who I trust, who I think is better than me, and he can run it, grow it as an asset for me. So now really more focused on kind of building a portfolio of assets for myself, whether that's companies, real estate, whatever that may be, and just understanding the value that I can bring to the table, which yes, I'm a good operator. Yes, I'm a good hiring and training with people, but it's not something I enjoy doing. What I love is marketing, and that's what I'm really the best at. And if I can focus all my time and attention on that in small silos and give responsible and capable people to do the rest of the stuff, I'm going to grow my portfolio a lot faster. That was kind of my big aha moment. I think that we all hit is that reinvestment stage where it's like, shit, I got a lot of cash now. I can go buy a Lambo, or I can go do this 10 times over and plant a lot more seeds, So yeah, it was kind of more of a merger than an acquisition, but you can call it either way. And then my e-com business, I just had a small, it was called Laces Out, just sold shoelaces. I sold that on Empire Flippers, got a nice check for that. Same thing though. I just realized the value of my time, and packaging and shipping fucking shoelaces was not a good use of my time. So I sold that, took the cash, and then reinvested in a lot of other things, which is good.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like very similar ventures we got going on, kind of the same mindset as well, which is interesting. What are kind of the projects that you're looking at now from like qualifications criteria, if you will? What check boxes are you looking to hit?
Yeah, I mean, first, it's got to be something that holds my attention first and foremost. Something that I see as, and that to me is like, I see it as marketable, like something that I can put on Instagram, something organically, something that I can advertise because I'm big on advertising, something I can make video content about, something that I can blog about, something that is just all around end-to-end marketable. That's number one. Number two, like I said, something that holds my interest, something that I'm somewhat interested in learning more about the industry. Something that scales higher and has a higher market cap. That's kind of the lessons that I've learned, is that different businesses have different caps, and there's nothing wrong with $1 million business, but I've done that, and now I'm just constantly moving up the ladder, right? And really something that doesn't require my full time and attention. Something, again, where I said, like, I can come in, it's got a good operator, it's got capable people in place, or plans to have those capable people in place, where the business isn't going to run through me anymore. Like I said, I truly believe that when I'm able to focus on just marketing and kind of that side of the business, that could be one of the best in the world at what I do. And if I can just do that and focus that on multiple companies, then I'm all there. But if it's going to require more than that, and like I said, something that I believe now is less than worth my time. Like, if you want me to come in and write blog posts, like, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to happen. So that's kind of my criteria. So right now, the blueprint training is one of my main focuses. I have a partner, David Krevin, who we just spoke about with that. He handles a lot of like the ongoing support, but we're both responsible for continuously building more content for the course. We've got a really active Slack channel, which is awesome. It's basically an SEO agency in a box, end-to-end, everything from client onboarding, sales, advanced technical SEO, everything in there to take that and scale really the operations side of your agency. That's the blueprint. Capture and Convert is just a small plugin that I've been working on for years, finally getting that to market, just as kind of like a portfolio builder, something that I want to build and ideally sell to like a Sumo or, somebody like that in the space. And then the thing that me and Dave are also working on is what we're calling query.recipes. It's a little bit more advanced, but this is something that you would probably see value in. So BigQuery, anyone who works in Google Sheets a lot with a lot of data knows that Sheets will hit a limit in terms of how much data you can put in there. So the next step is to push that to like a cloud processing engine, which BigQuery is Google's own product. Basically, it will take all that processing out, do it in the cloud, and then it will spit it back out into Sheets, into Data Studio, Tableau, whatever. So David built this really awesome, basically data connector, basically like the Zapier for BigQuery, where it's like, here's your SEMrush API, CallRail API, all the APIs that you want pushed to BigQuery. He built that connector, so we're getting ready to take that to market next month, calling it query.recipes. That to me is like, has a pretty high market cap. If you're familiar with the data space, like a Stitch just sold for 50 million. Supermetrics is up there as well. So that's the next step for me. And then, just more and more investments. Investments in my own companies, and then investments I'm pushing a lot into like kind of more cash generating investments, like a real estate, stuff like that, where I can start paying less taxes.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's the fun thing when you exit, right? The taxes, right?
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Hard pill to swallow. Cool, man. So thanks for sharing that kind of with us. Definitely a lot of synergy there, and I'd love to chat with you more offline about some of that stuff. I think there's some cool synergy there. And for those of you guys that don't understand the power of Google Sheets yet, and kind of the Google Apps or Google Suite kind of system, definitely go check out Ryan and everything that he's doing at Webris. It's absolutely crazy. In my last agency that we built and sold, we just hit the $1 million a year in annual recurring revenue. So Ryan, I think you beat me. I think you were at like 1.1 or 1.2. I was a little pissed when I saw that, I'm not gonna lie. But the whole start of that business, we build software, but the entire company was running off of Google Sheets. Right. And so the first 2-3 months was all Google Sheets. And then we transitioned to some custom software that we had built. And if it wasn't for Google Sheets, there's no way on earth that we could have scaled that quickly without absolutely driving the company into the ground. And I know that you've had similar experiences. So definitely go check that out. Something that you guys should be paying attention to. So let's jump into kind of what we got going on today. So I definitely, Ryan, want to chat about SEO, right? At the end of the day, you've built quite the reputation for yourself around SEO. And obviously, I would say 9 out of 10 people that kind of come into this SEO field, whether they're selling SEO, whether they're doing it for themselves, I don't really care. The fact is 9 out of 10, I would say, ultimately fail, right? And you've managed to build and grow a 7-figure agency, right? And exit, so to speak, or merger, depending on how you want to put it, right? You have as well built e-com companies, right? Like you've leveraged your own stack, so to speak, and your own systems and processes for yourself and for others. What do you think you've done differently than the majority of quote unquote SEOs out there?
I don't know. I mean, I focused on, to me, was like product. The SEO, the actual service that we were delivering, I was hyper focused on making sure that it was, like, as an agency, you mentioned local clients before you came on, like, I almost stopped you and said, like, I don't work with local clients because the retainers are too small. Like, I feel like a lot of agencies, when you get in, take on $200 a month or whatever you can. But like, if you don't have a growth plan to get out of those small retainers, and eventually come to the realization that you're putting in the same amount of work really to do that than an enterprise client at 10K a month, you've got to have a strategy in place to get from 500 a month to 5,000 a month to 50,000 a month, whatever it may be. And the best way to do that is improving the quality of your service, right? And it's not really rocket science. Like, we all know how to do SEO. It's really 4 main buckets, right? Technical, keywords on page, content, and links, right? So breaking those down into how we can deliver that at the highest possible quality at scale, which again is, I think that a lot of agencies hit like an inflection point around 5 clients. They don't know who to hire. They don't know how to scale the service. They don't know how to maintain quality. They don't know how to pull themselves out. I really just figured out that the best way to pull myself out was through process and through automation. So using things like Google Sheets, building templates, and then repeatable processes to do keyword research, to do on page, that I could bring in somebody who was either offshore at first or, a $35,000 a year employee, to do these things at a very high level. So continuously improving the quality of our service through processes, through training, through automation. And then me just going out and marketing the living hell out of myself online. I think a lot of agencies, again, they don't know how to market other people's businesses and their own at the same time. That was something that I realized was super important. And again, I actually just did a webinar that talked about staffing and resourcing and how to hire your first person. And like, that's like one of the biggest questions I got, like, who do I hire first? And I always say that, you hire based on what you're shitty at or what you really don't like doing. For me, I didn't like communication. I didn't like dealing with clients. So I hired a PMAM person, project manager first, to handle all that stuff for me, which again allowed me to keep myself in service, focus on the service, and then eventually hire service people under that. If it's the opposite for you, if you're really good with clients, you handle the communications, you handle the management, and you hire operational people to support you underneath that. Whatever that may be, just getting those right people in place and pulling yourself out of the business operationally is incredibly important. So I think a lot of people, especially young agencies, they get stuck working with small clients that are taking up too much of their time. They're not going out and marketing themselves to grow the value, the perceived value of their service. And they're not doing anything to improve the quality of their service. Like you mentioned it, you said that a lot of people are using, gray hat tactics. Like, why, dude? Like, you want to get paid $50,000 a month and you're using fucking PBNs? Like, get out of here, dude. That's JV shit. Like, honestly, like, do things the right way. I know it's harder. It takes more work, but like, building a business is hard, and that's the things that you have to do if you want to get to the next levels. And I think a lot of people, they're just doing the same things over and over and over again. They're seeing stuff online. They're seeing stuff on Facebook groups, and they're chasing the next hack when they don't realize that SEO is not a hack. It's a process that you have to run. That's it. It requires man hours. You just got to find the right people, get them trained, and have them do it, and go out and just get more and more clients. So I think that's kind of a long explanation, but that's a lot of the things that I see, especially young agencies, do wrong.
Do it the right way. Do it with leverage, right? Through automation or software, right? Google Sheets, for example, and team members that know how to do it.
Absolutely.
Right? It's essentially, at the end of the day, kind of the big 3 keys that I took from what you just said. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So in your blueprint training, I see that you kind of break everything down into kind of 5 phases. Kind of a framework around those 5. Can you kind of give us an understanding of what that is and kind of deep dive a little bit on those 5 phases specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 5 phases is something that I developed as a marketing point for our agency. Like, what I realized, so again, when I first got started, doing the same thing, hustling to get those $500 a month local clients in realizing at that point, like, working with those types of clients, realistically, all they care about is results, right? So coming up with a framework, like I wanted to productize my service. I wanted to charge the same blanket amount. We don't do that anymore. We moved to an hourly, like more retainer pricing model as we've grown. But to get to that $1 million mark, I just really used kind of like flat-based pricing. And basically charging SEO as a service at like $4,000 a month, like it was a product. And the way that I made it a product was I built a framework on top of it that, like we apply this framework and it works. So I call it the 5 phases. It's learning, which covers like, onboarding, analytics, data analysis, project management, all that type of stuff, like setting up the project. I don't even have it memorized, but there's 5 phases, right? And I'll go through it. I haven't sold SEO in a while. But the blueprint is based on that, and basically it's the same thing, right? I'm trying to get the agencies that are within the blueprint to understand that SEO is a system, it is a process, and within the blueprint, literally every one of those phases has the exact deliverables, the exact Google Sheets template that we use. David went through and automated literally every single thing in there, including some proprietary stuff that we've built that we've used the agency that we sold for quite a bit of money. But those 5 phases are really the same framework that I take and apply to every marketing campaign. I've actually expanded that too, because as I don't really call myself an SEO anymore. I'm trying to also level up my personal self and not just be an SEO and be a marketer and then be an entrepreneur and then be, author, all that stuff, right? In those same 5 phases, they apply to any marketing campaign, right? So it's learning. Do you have them in front of you?
Yeah. So I just pulled it up for you. So learning, improving, building, promoting, and evaluating.
Yeah. So improving is going. So learning is the first stage. That's like the onboarding process. Like I said, getting everyone on board, doing the data analysis, reviewing their analytics, all that stuff. Improving, that goes in and improving the existing assets of a website. So like keyword research, on page, finding low hanging fruit, building what we call target pages. So like looking at pages that are already ranking, figuring out a way that we can just do basic on page to move them up. Building, that then goes into creating content, building a ton of other assets across the web too, not just on the website. Promoting, obviously link building from the scope of SEO, but then also pushing into advertising, outreach, PR, social media, everything. And then evaluating is kind of going back through, looking at the success of the campaign and then making it rolling adjustments onto it. So it's the same framework that I apply to all my companies as well. It works really well for SEO. It's how I sell the blueprint. It's how the course is organized. But it's really also like my future plans for the blueprint is to not just make it SEO, to make it end-to-end marketing and like business growth through marketing. And that same 5 phases will apply throughout it. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think that one of the things that people in the local space anyway, that are doing consulting, but for clients on a local space, even if they're spending, more than what you said, more than $250 or $500 a month, if they're getting $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month from their local clients, they think that they can't do white hat SEO, right? Like they fall into the trap, or they let themselves believe, right, that they can't do outreach because it's too expensive. They can't do guest posts or sponsor posts because it's too expensive. And frankly, like I believe that that's bullshit. And I'd love to get your kind of thought process on that.
I think number one is that moving to the model that we described, whether you call it white hat or just, doing things kind of the long hand or right way, whatever, it requires a complete shift in your business, right? Not just how you're allocating $1,000 a month budget, but really how you're selling that in, right? You absolutely need to be the expert in the room when you're talking, even if like you're talking to a dentist who doesn't care about SEO, doesn't know about SEO, like you need to assert yourself as an expert and let them know how SEO works. It's really important, right? And you need to understand to let them know also how, if they're paying you $1,000 a month, where that budget is going. So it's not just saying, pay us $1,000 a month, we're gonna get you first page rankings. That's not what they're paying you for. They're paying you to do the service of SEO. So you need to explain to them how that budget is being allocated. And part of that is link building. So like what I used to do was, if they were paying us for it, then flat pricing is very easy for young agencies. It's the easiest way to grow and scale because you don't have to worry about that, right? Again, like I said, we moved to more of an hours model because it's more consulting now. It's much bigger, right? But flat pricing is easy, but you need to also let them know how much you're going to earmark for links. So if you can't, like if you think it's too expensive, number one is that, especially for local, man, like we had a local coffee shop. I did a case study about it called Dr. Smooth. They had 10 different locations across South Florida, in New York. And basically all we did was we had a VA go on Instagram and just build a list of like bloggers, put it in a spreadsheet. It cost us $40 a location for like 20 hours worth of work, and then we just emailed them, offering them to come in for, free coffee, and to write about it. Basically doing like offline product reviews, right? To come in for experiences. We did that for link building. We didn't have to pay. It cost us nothing. You know what I mean? It's more difficult from a strategy point of view to scale that from supposedly as opposed to like using a PBN. But people also don't understand and this is something we go through at the agency now, billable versus non-billable hours, right? How much, like looking at each one of our employees basically as a profit center and utilization rates, right? In understanding the amount of billable hours they have in the day, how much profit they can drive to the company per day. People don't understand that they're wasting their time on PBNs doing the same thing, right? Like you're saying a PBN, I don't even know how people build black hat links anymore. Like you use a PBN, like, but how much time are you spending like setting it up, managing it? Even just like having your thought process, like worried about, like reading articles about like PBNs and how to keep them safe. Like it's a waste of time. You know what I mean? Not only does it not work as well, it's not good for your business. It's not the right way to do things. Like you're never going to build a brand taking shortcuts. That's just what it is, you know? So you're also wasting a ton of your time and energy and resources just thinking about it as opposed to just making a fundamental shift, a choice in your business to do things differently, and then exploring the options, like getting a couple of VAs in-house offshore to do your prospecting, and then just using a tool like Pitchbox to send emails. Like it's not overly difficult. Or is just outsourcing that part of work to like what I do. We do a lot of now at the agency. We still do a lot of link building and outreach, but most of the time we'll just be like, you need links. It's part of SEO, but we're going to refer you to an agency that does it specifically, outreach. And like, you're going to pay them what they require. And if you want to get the optimal results, you have to pay them. Granted, we're working with clients with bigger budgets now, but like the point is that like you need to be having these conversations with clients and educating them in trying to get extra money for links. If it's too expensive, then explain to them that links are really important and that your service is broken down into your hours to do the SEO and then links like PR, and you need them. And anyone who tells you otherwise is full of shit, you know? So
I think a great way to look at it is PR too, right? Like essentially that coffee shop campaign that you were talking about, like you essentially went after bloggers, right? And you basically just told them, we got a new coffee shop opening, come in and try the coffee. Like there was no cost besides the research or going and finding, right, those bloggers. I mean, and I think that people just, they want the easy way out. They want go post to a bunch of blogs or go do this tactic, and they just don't want to use their brains, right, at the end of the day.
And you can also just, I mean, if you're really feeling lazy, and we do it a lot at the agency now too, is we just pay bloggers. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with PBNs, but you don't have to, it's a real blog, a real local blog, you know, just like find a list of bloggers. And if you're only working in the same locations, you build a database. It really is so much easier to do it that way than to like have to consistently worry about like your site's going down and like getting like all that stuff. And it just doesn't work as well, like at all. Like you're not only spending more time and resource than you think, but like you're getting less results and diminishing returns. So,
what are some other kind of creative campaigns that you've run or you've seen people run that are like uber low cost or like the grand opening kind of campaign, so to speak? Right? What are some outside the box, like anybody could run this, like the business opened, a new location opened, they added a new service, right? Like that's super simple.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I like. So what I'm doing right now, like you just have to like, it's all about like when I'm doing it right now for myself, for the blueprint, building quite a bit of links. Like whenever I launch a new business, it's really important to me to build links. And really get links built the right way. So I understand what I bring to the table in terms of value. So you have to put yourself in that same shoes. Like link building is just like anything, is an exchange of value. You want to link on their website, like what is it that you bring to the table? So understanding what that value proposition is. So for me right now with the blueprint, I'm doing just resource-based link building where like I'm just Googling like best SEO courses. And if you Google it, you'll see me on all those lists now. Because I just offer them free access to the blueprint. You know what I mean? And then like continuously followed up to like be like, what's up? So there's like a bunch of top 10 lists about like, you know, best SEO training. So like best local coffee shop, same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like what is the value that you can offer them? And like there's a couple of easy things you can do. Like number one is to write the section for them. Like a lot of authors are just like if you hit me up and you're like, hey, like I have a list of like 100 free SEO tools. And like people hit me up all the time. They're like, can you add me the list? I'm like, like you want me to take a screenshot and like no, I'm not going to do it. But like if you're like, here's the exact blurb, here's a screenshot, like if you like take an extra step to do that, and then if you're also like, hey, by the way, like I've got an email list of 2,000 people, I'll send it to them. Or like, hey, I've got a Twitter account, like we'll share it. You know what I mean? Like what other value can you get me to want to take action? That's all link building is, you know, and like people just like, again, money is the most common way to do that. But if you don't have the money, there's other ways that you can do it. You just got to spend a little bit more time, but they're all effective. It's just figuring out what that exchange of value is and offering it to them, and really just doing that at scale repeatedly, which is why Pitchbox is so amazing. It's just an automated outreach set. What's the other one that Sujan Patel has? Mailshake is good too. There's a bunch of them, you know?
Yep.
Find the contacts, write a pitch, and blast it out. That's all you really got to do.
Yeah, I mean, with your help, after seeing kind of what you did, right? We went and actually built a database, right? And that has worked really, really well for us. So essentially, since the beginning of the year, end of last year, we specifically have went after mommy bloggers because we find that they're just easy targets. You know, that most of them aren't making a whole lot of money. So us, not having to come up with a lot of angles and super creative stuff is worth just paying
Yep,
to get the post
absolutely.
up there, right, and live.
That's the value that they're looking for. Yeah.
And so it works like gangbusters, and it applies for like 95% of our customers, right?
Yeah.
So we can build
Absolutely.
the database. If it works for one, we know what content they'll accept, what their fee is, right? Like we build out the profile and we know exactly what they want, and we have our database now. That has been a big game changer for us, and man, that came from you. So wanted to give you the credit and say thank you.
No, I mean, I didn't even come up with it. Honestly, like it's kind of like you would have arrived there on your own. When you're doing a lot of outreach and you're like, wait, we're doing all those one-off pitches. Like, why don't we just track them in a spreadsheet? So what we do at the agency now is we just have a pitch box campaign that's constantly prospecting, constantly doing outreach to new bloggers. So we'll just set like exclusions within Pitchbox that we haven't contacted before. Pitchbox is an amazing tool, by the way. And then it's just constantly sending pitches that's like, hey, my name is Evelyn. I work for From the Future. We're always looking to partner up with influential bloggers, Instagrammers, whatever, like yourself. We can do a number of things. We can do product reviews. We can do promotional. We'll send a bunch of stuff, but really all we want is a link on the site. So we'll send like a bunch of like more traditional offers, like we can do co-marketing campaigns, blah, blah, blah. But all we're looking for is that positive response, yes. And then they just get added to like a warm list. And then when we get a campaign ready, just based on tag, then we just send out, we need fashion bloggers, and we just send them like, hey, Susie, just wanted to follow up. You said you were interested. Like, we've got a perfect client for you. It's easy. Yep. And then we don't have to worry about links anymore. It's just yep. One less thing to worry about.
So we do the same thing. Campaign that's continually going out, prospecting, vetting, and trying to get people to say yes, and then getting the deal done for the first time. And then we have all the deals in the database, so to speak, that we've already ran and approved. And we kind of split those up. We got two different people running kind of different departments. So one is building the database, and another is simply reusing the database for all of our existing customers.
Yeah.
So it works like gangbusters.
It's the best way to do it, man. It really is. It's kind of when you do a lot of outreach, you kind of arrive at that conclusion yourself. You just have to. Like, outreach is just not really scalable to a certain point. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is if you have a team to do it, but like it's even with all my methods and all your methods, like it's still really hard, and if you don't build a database, it's just, you have to have relationships. Otherwise, it's just like you're essentially turning yourself into PR agency. Like, what PR agencies have is relationships, and they're just hitting up those relationships over and over again. If you can build those yourself, then you have $1 million business on your hands, literally.
So if we step this back a little bit, earlier you were talking about your e-com company, right? And you were talking about Laces Out. So that was an e-com site. Is e-com kind of something that you think you're going to be adding back to your portfolio? Or is that something kind of a one and done? Do you think, like, if it has a big enough market cap?
I think that, yeah, I mean, where I'm at now is, unless it's a piece of software, I'm not going to start a company from the ground up. Like, where I'm at now is with the slush funds at the end of this year, I'm going to look to invest in a couple of websites and buy them, like basically, using, and this is something that I'm sure you're aware of now, is one awesome thing about having a team is that you're basically scaling your time and your training, right? So like what we're working on, I have one of my consultants working on, is building kind of like a framework for analyzing businesses that we want. Like, my long-term goal actually is to basically build a fund where it's like, I go to somebody like you and I'm like, Joe, I got this really good opportunity. You trust me, and you give me 25,000, you get a certain equity stake, and we build a fund, and then we go out and we purchase that site for like $1 million. Like, I want to start working on sites like that are like just not taking advantage of marketing. They have good product, they have good everything, but they're just not doing a good job advertising. I can come in right away and triple that business. So in that case, yes. But like, again, like what people don't realize about e-commerce, you see all these like Shopify ads on YouTube and stuff. It's like, like, it's a lot of work, like managing the inventory, like all that stuff. It's like running an offline business. So for the right opportunity, I would do anything. I would invest or operate any business for whatever period if it's right. But e-com is not something I'm like dying to get back into because, like just managing, like even just sending products is a pain in the ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not, It's not it's not what it's cracked up to be, in my opinion. So for the right opportunity, absolutely. But I would definitely look to acquire an existing asset that has like inventory sourced, supplier sourced, like going through all that stuff to find it took like months and months and months. And for the upside of what that business was, it wasn't worth it. But I would definitely be, I love ecom. I think it's easier to market in some sense, especially if you've got like a database of mommy bloggers like that. I mean, come on, you can crush it over a long term of time. But right now, like my short 1 year is the blueprint. I'm trying to get it to like 3 million in revenue over like the next 3 years. Just query recipes and then taking whatever slush I have left and investing in something else, and ideally getting like my team to manage and run that. Building a name in the space as somebody who's even more legitimate, like you trust me enough to give me $50,000 or 100,000, whatever, to go buy companies on your behalf and make you an owner. That's really where like I see the next 10 years of my life going, and ecom will definitely be part of that.
That model's really interesting. I just had Matt Diggity on the show, and we had a very similar conversation, right, with LeadSpring. And so, Matt's goal is to acquire or build and then to hold and then dump so that he can get the multiple. And specifically, he doesn't want to grow a big team either, right? Like kind of the conversation we had at the beginning of this call. And so for him, the magic is in keeping that team really tight and really effective, and keeping something for a certain amount of time, building the revenue, and then when it's right to exit and get the big hit so that he can start all over again and just keep doing it without having to grow a huge team. Is that kind of your thought process behind the fund, kind of slush fund idea, so to speak, or more hold, or just you don't care?
I'm really big right now into just, that's funny because out there there's a huge billboard of Grant Cardone. And he's like, I like Grant Cardone. I don't necessarily subscribe to all of his methods, but he's just really big on cash flow, and that is kind of like my big thing, right? But when we were talking about things I want to look for, I want to look for something that has cash flow that is basically going to pay me dividends every month.
So like with the fund, are you thinking like buy and hold? Right? Are you thinking build and hold, or are you thinking buy or build and sell, or it doesn't matter, just cash is king? I don't care either way.
Whatever the economics dictates, right? So if it's something that's spitting out $100,000 of profit every month, and all the investors hypothetically were happy with it, then we would hold it. But if somebody wants to come in and offer us a 20x multiple, then we're going to sell it. You know what I mean? So whatever is best. Also taking into account just the overall difficulty of managing and growing that business. Like if it's a major headache, then I would just want to offload it. I don't necessarily have a problem building a big team. It's more just right now where I'm at with the businesses I'm working at, I don't need a big team. And managing a team can drain my time. But like ideally, and this is why I really wanted to partner up with Nick Eubanks, my partner at From the Future, is we look at From the Future as all of our employees as our own assets, right? Like we're continuously growing. The agency is great. We love it. But realistically, what we want to do is basically turn it into a similar model where we have our own portfolio of assets in there that our team is only working on that. So we've, over the last 5 years, built this amazing team of highly trained marketers that have seen everything, that are just ninjas, right? And then we give them, instead of building equity in other companies, using them to build our own company, so our own equity portfolio. So I guess like the overall picture move is just to move away from getting paid cash every month by a client and moving more towards an equity model where we own the assets, but we're also getting cash from those assets every month. So cash flow is huge. It takes time for some of them, but I would build, hold, sell, whatever the economics dictates for that business.
You're not going to judge. You'll take either.
Yeah, I mean, whatever's working, man, and you never know until you get in there too. So
I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you feel about outsourcing overseas, or having people work for cheaper labor rates? Or what's your opinion on people saying like, you never want to outsource your SEO or to this country, or you never want to work with VAs? Or can you talk about kind of your thought process in terms of outsourcing?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, people are people. Like, it doesn't matter if they're in Pakistan or the US. I mean, we've just been so fortunate to grow up in a system that gives us more leverage than other countries, to put it bluntly. That doesn't make us better than them. That doesn't make us smarter than them. We've just had a lot more opportunity, so I think it's I agree with the statement that it's a bad thing to outsource. Like if I have a coffee shop, it would be a really bad idea for me to go and hire an agency just blanket statement. It's probably a bad idea to hire a lot of agencies in this country too. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of bad agencies out there. So that I would agree with, but I would not agree with the fact that you shouldn't be outsourcing work, especially when you're a young company. Like it's just like the trade-off is this: is that if you want to outsource, you have to spend more time. But when you're a younger company, you have more time to get those people trained up. But dude, I mean, my WordPress developer two developers have been working for me now for 5 years. They show up every day. They work Saturday and Sunday. I don't tell them to, they just do it. And I pay them $1,000 flat fee a month, and they do American quality work. They're amazing. Also with the Blueprint, we just hired a support guy. He's not cheap. He's $18 an hour, but like no SQL, knows Python. He can fix a lot of the tools that we have in Sheets. So if we were to get somebody locally to do that, we're talking probably like $100 an hour. So economically, especially with a young company, like it's a really good idea to do it. But you just have to make sure that you're giving them the right sandbox up front to play in, to test, to make mistakes, just like you hire somebody locally too. Like you have to train them. You have to work with them. You have to make sure that they understand. And it's a lot harder to do when they're not sitting next to you. But you have to put in the time to like continuously work with people, give them stuff to do, critique it, tell them what you want. Like using video is really, really important. Again, having like processes written up ahead of time is really, really important. So yeah, I mean, I'm all about outsourcing, offshoring, whatever is good for the business, really.
Yep. I completely agree. Like my viewpoint is the same as yours. I think for me, the way that I look at it too is like, are we looking for an expert? Are we looking for kind of to out task? Yeah. Right? Like if it's a job that anybody can do without any previous work experience, then I can save a lot of money. And people are people, man. Like how we train them and the results that they get, like that doesn't matter where they're from or what country they live in. So I think a lot of systems and processes can be ran from any country. It doesn't really matter, right? Like there's some strengths and weaknesses. If you're looking for like a writer, right? And they don't natively speak English, but if you're just looking for somebody to find prospects and bloggers and local media people to send emails to, what does it matter if they're in the States or they're somewhere else? So I know that definitely we couldn't have grown our agency and all of my businesses as fast as we have if it wasn't for outsourcing or outshoring. My main support guy is in the Philippines. His name's Ryan. Ryan's been with me for like 6 years. And frankly, like you'd never even know that he was from the Philippines. And like he knows like any product better than any American on our team, backwards and forwards. Like he could crush them in a test or a skills challenge like any day, and you'd have no idea where he's from. So, but I think there are cases, like you said, with like developers too. Me with developers, for example, I'm looking for the best talent that I possibly can. I don't care so much about price. Mm-hmm. So I have a developer in the States, for example, that makes like 40 grand a year. And I got a developer in Romania that makes like 120 US a year, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but there's a big, huge difference in terms of talent.
Huge difference. And I also think that the US is actually very far behind in a lot of things like development. I mean, Eastern Europe is a powerhouse for developers. You know what I'm saying? Like you outsource development over there and end up paying more for it because their skill set is. I mean, like all of our favorite SEO tools are not US tools also. That's important to know. You know what I mean? Like all their developers, their whole staff is from over there, So I agree. Especially when it comes to things like design, I'm always willing to pay higher to get it done right the first time. Like that's the thing too, is that like my developers are doing like front-end WordPress. They're not like building applications. They could, but I'm just building so many different sites and constantly adding sites that like I like to have developers on retainer that are just like, I talk to my developers more than anything because they basically will manage all my sites and presence and all that stuff. But 100% agree, man. I think becoming less taboo. I think it's a bad idea for just an everyday business owner to outsource work. But if you're an agency, like you're not going to make ends meet at first if you don't, unless you're so good that you can charge a couple $100 an hour and hire all local. But that's rare.
Yep, completely agree. Cool, man. So we're coming to the top of the hour, man. I want to be respectful of your time. But I got a couple more questions here. The next one is a little bit of a taboo one, right? But if you were to start your agency again, right? Like what would you do differently? Like you built it, you sold it, so to speak. If you're looking back, like what were the takeaways? Like what would you do differently your second go around, so to speak?
I would have hired sooner. I would have bet more on myself. This is something that I think as entrepreneurs, we all go through, and it's a learning experience more and more and more. But I was unwilling to give up I say lifestyle. I wasn't like balling. Like I'm living a lot better now, but I had like a pretty nice apartment, a pretty nice car. Like I wasn't willing to take less income for myself for the good of the business. And that stagnated us pretty significantly and that was a big reason why I was working so much. I got out of shape. My relationship fell apart because I was never there. And when I was there, I was always thinking about the business. I was irritable. And I would have hired sooner, a lot sooner. And it just like I'm doing now, like investing in the business, people are an investment in the business. And, I had some offshore people, but again, like there is a time for offshore and there's a time for having somebody sit next to you, because of just what they can do and, getting on the phone and all that stuff. So I would have hired a lot sooner than I did.
So yeah, definitely completely agree with that one. Big takeaway for me as well. So last question then, Ryan. At the end of a lot of podcasts, people ask to recommend a book or what's your favorite book or give me 10 books, right? I want to do something a little bit different. I want to ask you, what's the one book, right, that's made the biggest impact on the way that you do business?
On the way that I do business?
So like, what's the most applicable thing that like you've taken action on and that has crushed it in your business? Like, what's that book?
There's a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It just came out not too long ago. And it's not a business book per se. It's more of a mental kind of, I don't even know what you classify it as. But the reason why that was so important for me was because I've always been an introvert. I've always been somebody who has held myself back from doing more because of what I perceived other people thought about me. So what that book talks a lot about is just understanding that you are really kind of the biggest thing that's holding you back a lot of things. And when I say that now, it means in today's market, like doing things like I was very shy about using things like Instagram. Even now, I've only just now started posting business stuff on Instagram. And when I look back, if I could have been doing this 3 years ago, fuck, man, I missed out, and it was solely because I was worried about what my friends were going to think about me, posting business videos and it was only going to get 20 views. That didn't have if I could go back and you can go back to my business before, I would have, you say you pushed all in, but I wasn't really pushed all in. And even now, I'm realizing that now, when I have this extra money, it's great because I have extra money, but am I really pushing all in or am I not pushing all in? Am I really investing in the future? Am I really doubling down on what I believe in myself and the businesses? And that book was great. That book really does dig into really the psychology of yourself and of your own mind. And yeah, literally just understanding that so much of this world is based on, and so much of our actions, the decision is based on what other people think, but they really don't give a shit. And neither should you, And again, when it comes to this world and what gets success right now, so much of it is social media. I posted something on Twitter yesterday about I think social media is way more powerful than SEO. I check social 50 times a day across my channels. It literally shapes our world and our opinions and our views and what we see in the world. We get it from social media. Whereas Google, we'll search for stuff and maybe buy something, but do we though? You see a product on Instagram, you see it here, and then you're going right to that website to buy it most of the time, or you're going to Amazon to buy it, So obviously I still love SEO, huge market, huge place for it in business, but got off track. But yeah, that book really helped me to understand that if I really want to be where I want to be and who I want to be, then I need to stop getting in my own way, Really good book. I do recommend everyone check it out.
Yeah, great book. I got it here on Audible, actually. I went through it just 2 weeks ago. Just a quick recommendation for you then. Have you read Man Up? So Bedros Keuilian is the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp, which you see everywhere. And he was on the brink of disaster with that business and was about to go under. And then completely turned the thing around to what it is today, fastest growing fitness franchise out there. It's a lot like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I think you would really dig it.
I like Bedros, amazing speaker.
Yeah, Bedros, great speaker. And it talks about his history and moving here to the United States and how he grew up and how that really fucked with his mind and it's a great book. So if you like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, you'll love the book by Bedros.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out for sure.
So cool, man. One thing I want to reiterate here is the value exchange, right? At the end of the day, if somebody could walk away from this interview with one thing, there's been a lot of things, but understand that SEO is just another value exchange, right? It is one big thing I took from this interview. And if you think about it, everything is a value exchange, right? Getting somebody to share your stuff on social media, like you were just talking about, social and Insta is a value exchange, right? Pitching somebody and getting a customer is a value exchange, right? You selling your business was a value exchange. Us getting links, there's got to be a value exchange, right? And at the end of the day, I think if you just think about it in terms of a value exchange, in terms of building links and how can I provide value to somebody and how can I get some leverage and some scale with it, I think that you'll think completely different about link building.
Definitely.
All right, man. Ryan, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. If somebody wants to look you up, if they want to find you, I would assume Webris is the main place that we want to link you up in the show notes, right? Anywhere else?
Webris is good. The blueprint is good too. I've been pushing a lot more on my personal website now too, ryanwasseer.com. Any of the above, I'm all there.
All right, awesome. We'll throw all three in the show notes. I appreciate it, Ryan. Have a freaking fantastic weekend, all right?
Thanks, Joe. You too, man.
Now, before you go, I have something extremely special for you. What if some of the top entrepreneurs of our entire industry went a little nuts and decided that they give away their best products for free? Well, forget the what if. This is actually happening, all right? These top entrepreneurs join me, and we are now running a contest to give you their best products absolutely free. And you don't want to miss out on this amazing opportunity. So go check it out at digitaltriggers.io/contest. And I want you guys to understand that yes, this is a contest, but there is quite literally something for everyone. So just by joining, you are a winner. So go check it out at digitaltriggers.io/contest. Again, that's digitaltriggers.io/contest. And guys, again, this is a limited time contest. So go ahead and do it now before it's too late. We'll see you on the next episode.